All right, I want to bring you some breaking news we're getting. It looks like this is what we've been waiting for. According to local affiliates, prosecutors are seeking homicide charges against the mom of missing 3-year-old Caylee. An affiliate in Orlando says the case should go to the grand jury next week. That means Casey Anthony may face a murder or manslaughter charge, even without a body. State attorney says the report didn't come from her office. She says the grand jury will meet next week, but all cases are sealed until the day before or the day they are presented, so she doesn't know where this report comes from. Let's go to our law enforcement expert, Mike Brooks, on this. Mike, this is what we've been waiting for. How did we come to this point now? Why today do we hear this? What's going on in the investigation?
Well, Mike, you know, we've been hearing also from another affiliate that the sheriff was interviewed the other day and said that basically he thinks that Caylee is dead. We also have heard that there is other evidence that has not been brought forth to the public as of right now. We've seen a lot of evidence. We've heard about the hair evidence, chloroform, everything else in the trunk, a lot of other things. But now what they'll do, Mike, the prosecutors will take the evidence that they have not put out into the public. They will take all of this evidence and give it to the grand jury. They will go in and present their case to the grand jury. The grand jury can ask questions of the prosecutor, and it's very informal. And then they will come down and decide whether to indict Casey Anthony on either homicide, murder charges, or manslaughter. Now, it will be either homicide or murder if they determine, through the evidence presented to the grand jury, that it was a deliberate act. Now, the manslaughter charge could come forth if they decide that it was an accident and then maybe she tried to cover up the body, cover up the act. We don't know that, Mike. Right. This is, and again, the information going into the grand jury, as you heard, will be sealed, but we could hear something next week whether or not they decide to indict her. We call this a grand jury original. Now, if she is indicted, then a warrant will be presented and written up for her arrest, and they'll go out to her house and get her and bring her to jail. And I doubt if they do charge her with homicide or manslaughter, if they decide to indict, that she will be going home on any kind of bail at all.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper. And you talked about evidence just a moment ago. What evidence do you see that they have that says, yes, they can go forward, yes, we have enough to charge Casey?
Well, if you look at the witness list, Mike, that we looked at last week, there are 82 witnesses. 35 of those witnesses are law enforcement. So all these people are going to be brought forth to the grand jury also. They're all this evidence. They're going to walk everybody possibly in front of the grand jury or have a law enforcement officer come in and testify as to the interviews that they conducted with her friends and associates. And right now, it looks like it's circumstantial. We have no body, but there's a lot of evidence. We've got the chloroform evidence. There's significant traces of chloroform that were in the trunk. We've got the hair that they believe is Caylee's that shows that there was decomposition. We have the air sample that was sent to the body farm and came back and said, yes, there was human decomposition in that trunk. And we've also got the testimony of Cindy Anthony, of the homicide detective early on in the stages, who thought that they smelled that. We also have the canine handlers who said, yes, when the dog initially was hit on that trunk, that was human decomposition, because these dogs are trained just to detect human decomposition, not an animal like Casey was saying it was a squirrel.
Right.
That probably wasn't the case. All of these statements, all of the evidence that we've seen and evidence that we have not seen, I think there's a lot of good evidence that we have not seen, will be brought forth in this case to the grand jury, and they will decide either homicide charge or manslaughter, or decide not to indict at all.
Okay, let's get a call in. Marcia, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Marcia. What's your comment or question?
The comment I have is on the Nancy Grace show that they always we can hear the interrogation of the interrogators of the police officers interviewing her, and they'll come out and say, "Well, you're lying. Stop the lies," but they're not tough enough on her. They really need to get into her face and scare the snot out of her. They're too easy. They're too easy on her.
Mike, you agree with that? You think they need to get tougher on her?
Well, Mike, you can only get so tough. You can't torture Casey Anthony, okay? But in fact, what the sheriff has says that his seasoned detectives, his investigators who are working on this case from Orange County Sheriff's Department, they are saying that she is one of the toughest people they have ever had to interview in their entire career. And what does that say? That means that she's being a pretty tough cookie and she's not going to crack. But now, if they do decide to charge her with this, is there going to be some kind of plea agreement? I seriously doubt it, because, Mike, early on she was offered a limited immunity deal that she and her attorney, Jose Baez, decided to turn down. So where this case goes after they indict her, if and when they do indict her, it remains to be seen.
Okay. Again, I think it was Sergeant John Allen who said that. That struck me. When you're talking about a 22-year-old mom, and he's saying how tough she is, what a poker face she has come with in these interrogations.
That's exactly right. And you know, and these aren't guys who have a year or two on the job, Mike. You know, these are seasoned veterans. Orange County is an excellent department. They were fantastic investigators. And you know, for them to come out and say this, that's something. You know, that this woman is that cold-hearted. You know, and it was one thing we haven't heard, Mike. And we heard early on that they were going to give her some kind of psychological evaluation. We never heard what the results of that psychological evaluation were. And that's something that I would be anxious to hear what the psychological, what they came out and said, you know, what goes on, you know, and give her an above the neck check.